Well, people will ask very, very frequently, especially in the middle school Facebook groups. People will ask, what method book should I use?
Hmm.
Or, who has a method book that they like? And my comment to them is always, well, what does your curriculum say? Because I know all the method books. What does your curriculum say? Does your
Right.
curriculum emphasize rhythm reading? Does your curriculum emphasize diverse culture? And the response to me is, well, I just need a method book. The method book is my curriculum.
Hmm. Hmm.
Or I teach from the book.
Hmm. Yeah, I would say what I'm finding in this, because I'm speaking to people from all across the country, and I also have these survey responses, and there's like over 300 something survey responses. And it really, I don't want to say it splits because it's not a binary, but there are a lot of folks who treat a resource as a curriculum. They refer to the resource as a curriculum. It happens both in instrumental and in general music. In general music, it's often like music play online or Quaver is my curriculum. And then other people who have the stance that you're saying, which is these are resources that relate to the curriculum. And then there's also differences over which should come first. Should it be the resource that informs the curriculum? Should it be the curriculum that informs what resource you use? And other people who are either creating their curriculum or creating their resources.
Yeah.
So, why do you think it is that so many folks in the field treat resources as curriculum? Welcome to Imagining Possibilities for Music Learning and Teaching. I'm Evan Tobias, Associate Professor of Music Learning and Teaching at Arizona State University, and I'm so happy you're here. This is an invitation to pause and reflect not only on what music education is and how we can do what we do better, but to consider what music learning and teaching could be, to imagine possibilities and move in new ways. Ready to design, update, expand, or transform your music program? Let's imagine possibilities. Hey, music educators, welcome to Imagining Possibilities for Music Learning and Teaching. This is episode 3. This episode today is another one of these interviews from my research study on music educators' experiences and perspectives on music curriculum and curriculum development. If you want to know more about the study or more about this podcast, just listen to episode 1. But today you're going to hear from Melissa Carpenter. We spoke in 2024. She has a lot of really interesting perspectives, so a lot to think through today, especially for those of you who have interest in those beginning ensembles and beginning instrumentalists. At the end of the interview, I'll share some takeaways and I'll catch you on the other side. So let's get into it. All right, Melissa, how do you like to introduce yourself to folks in the field?
Well, my name is Melissa Carpenter. I am an elementary and middle school band director from Ann Arbor, Michigan, where I teach for the Ann Arbor Public Schools.
Awesome. And in a couple of sentences, can you just tell me a little bit about yourself in this position?
So the majority of my job is starting fifth grade beginning band.
Mhm.
And it's because the state of Michigan has a law that everything has to be provided. I provide every instrument and every supply to every fifth grader I teach. It is a requirement in Ann Arbor Public Schools that every fifth grader learn an instrument for which we provide them everything.
Wow.
So my specialty is in fitting hundreds of fifth graders a year for the best instrument for them, including children with special needs.
Mm. And typically, you're doing this in relationship to other folks in the district, is that right? You're not the only person doing this?
I'm not, no. Depending on the year, there are a handful of us that also teach fifth grade band. I have fifth grade string colleagues as well.
Okay, great. And can you describe a little bit about, you just gave me the scenario of this is what you're doing with these hundreds of students. What is the curriculum and how does it relate to what you're doing typically on a day-to-day basis?
So the curriculum for fifth grade band is part of a whole curriculum that the entire district has, starting from kindergarten, running through high school for all of our music classes. So I'm building upon what they've learned since kindergarten,
Mhm.
and especially the fourth grade recorder unit that comes before I teach them in fifth grade.
Mhm.
So the fifth grade curriculum generally includes music reading for treble, and because they already read treble, it's to switch my bass clef readers to read bass clef.
Mhm.
It includes reviewing note lengths and rhythms. So I teach whole note, half note, quarter note, and eighth note in fifth grade. It includes the first 5 notes for sure. And depending on how many snow days and stuff that happens, whether I can get to a full 8. It's not above the break for clarinet, it's below. It includes dynamics, articulation patterns. It also includes some improvisation and some composing.
And yeah, I should have asked this before. When the fifth graders are, you said they're required to play an instrument. Are they also in a general music class, or is the instrument, the program, the music education that they're getting for the year?
No, in 5th grade, we call it vocal. We have a vocal music class and we have instrumental for 5th grade.
And
the 4th grade curriculum, the recorders are taught by the vocal music teacher.
I see. Okay. And I'm assuming the vocal curriculum then is very similar to what you're doing. It's like basic sound production and how to sing and things of that sort.
Yeah. So the vocal music curriculum contains all of the same sort of things. I haven't taught vocal in a long time.
Sure.
But when I was teaching vocal, an example would be like kindergarten vocal music is loud, soft, fast, slow, high, low, keeping a steady beat. And then 1st grade, you add do, so, and so it's a very prescribed curriculum, but my contract allows me to use whatever materials I want to teach it.
That's right. I remember you mentioning that in the survey.
I have academic freedom in choosing how I teach what the curriculum is.
As long as you cover a set of what it seems like are concepts and skills for them starting the instrument. Is that right?
Correct.
In your sort of trajectory through formal music education, did you have any classes or parts of classes that focused specifically on curriculum or curriculum development?
Not that I can remember.
Mm-hmm.
The closest I think I had was an evaluation of method books.
Okay.
And method books are not curriculum.
Uh-huh. Yes, I know you said, I'm going to get to that because you mentioned that a couple of times.
Did I say it?
Yeah.
It's a pet peeve of mine. Yeah.
Have you what about in terms of professional development, either at the district level or at state conferences, things of that sort, in terms of curriculum or curriculum development?
Every year or every couple of years, my department sits down with our colleagues. We don't cross curricular as much as I would like, so I don't have enough conversation with my vocal colleagues.
Mm-hmm.
But we sit down and we do a review, and we just make sure that everything is still the way we want it to be and still how it lines up.
Okay.
We might have to make a very big change this year, depending on how much time we see our kids.
Right. What's realistic in terms of the amount of time that you have with them?
Yeah. So we might have to rewrite some things based on what's just humanly possible.
Yeah, sure. Of course. So you mentioned the district provides this curriculum. Do you have a sense of how that got made or who was involved in making it?
I was handed a 3-ring binder in 2000.
Wow.
I'm sure the people who wrote that, their names are on that 3-ring binder somewhere.
Uh-huh.
But since then, it's more like a collaborative effort. It's been put in a formal computer system now. So we've got it in Atlas.
Okay. Yeah, that's a lot of folks are using that.
So that everybody has access to it.
Mm-hmm.
There were a few years there where we didn't have enough 3-ring binders. I don't know. I've been at this a long time.
Yeah, sure. I've heard multiple things and perspectives around Atlas. Do you have any perspectives on how, if Atlas, what I'm hearing from some folks is that they had to change the formatting or the content of their curriculum to fit into the Atlas system. Have you encountered anything like that? Or I guess it was just in there and you engage with it. Do you have a sense of...
I had a colleague who was paid to put that in the program.
Uh-huh.
I don't like having to navigate through things. I honestly would prefer the 3-ring binder method. And I think a lot of my colleagues to have something in their hand where they could just flip and look, just hunt and peck through a web page and try to find stuff. And I don't think it's as useful as the districts thought it would be.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind, it's more like, oh, we gave you the curriculum, check box.
Yeah.
But how you access it and interact with it is not as easy.
Yeah, sure.
But I'm old and like 3-ring binders.
So let's talk about method books. You mentioned, I think it was probably like 2 or 3 times in the survey, and you just mentioned it before, about this idea that method books are not curriculum. So tell me about that.
Okay. So in my mind, a method book is a material.
Uh-huh.
It's a tool to use for your curriculum. So in my mind, the curriculum is the set of skills that you want a child to learn. Mm-hmm. And a method book is a tool in order to teach those skills. It's not the be all end all.
So what are you seeing either, I guess, in your district or in the field that makes you make this comment about some people are using the method book as a curriculum?
Well, people will ask very, very frequently, especially in the middle school Facebook groups. People will ask, what method book should I use?
Hmm.
Or, who has a method book that they like? And my comment to them is always, well, what does your curriculum say? Because I know all the method books. What does your curriculum say? Does your
Right.
curriculum emphasize rhythm reading? Does your curriculum emphasize diverse culture? And the response to me is, well, I just need a method book. The method book is my curriculum.
Hmm. Hmm.
Or I teach from the book.
Hmm. Yeah, I would say what I'm finding in this, because I'm speaking to people from all across the country, and I also have these survey responses, and there's like over 300 something survey responses. And it really, I don't want to say it splits because it's not a binary, but there are a lot of folks who treat a resource as a curriculum. They refer to the resource as a curriculum. It happens both in instrumental and in general music. In general music, it's often like music play online or Quaver is my curriculum. And then other people who have the stance that you're saying, which is these are resources that relate to the curriculum. And then there's also differences over which should come first. Should it be the resource that informs the curriculum? Should it be the curriculum that informs what resource you use? And other people who are either creating their curriculum or creating their resources.
Yeah,
So, why do you think it is that so many folks in the field treat resources as curriculum?
I'm pretty sure that I'm in the minority where my school district provided me a curriculum.
Hmm.
And it breaks my heart to say that, but I'm fairly certain from my conversations with colleagues across the country that they're just flying by the seat of their pants
Hmm.
and that their school district has never bothered to say what their students should be learning.
Mm.
And this confuses me because I don't know how you get evaluated on teaching if your school district or your administrator or whoever your evaluator is doesn't have a list of what your kids should even know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's embarrassing when I see a colleague post, my school district wants me to teach. I saw one the other day, pre-band,
Hmm.
and he needed a curriculum. And I said, what is pre-band?
Hmm.
I don't know. I've never heard the term before. I
Yeah,
thought
I
maybe
haven't either.
I mean, it's an international group of teachers.
Uh-huh.
What is pre-band and what has your district, like, what's the course call? Like, what's the course guide or something?
Right, right.
And I said, is it recorder? And he said, no, it's not recorder. They just need me to create this class. Oh, and when anyone ever says, does anyone have a curriculum? I'm like, if you are writing a curriculum, you need to be paid
Mm.
because curriculum writing is a job. And the idea that my colleagues across the country are getting thrown in first year teachers without any experience in this, that they have to come up with everything from scratch is, I couldn't even imagine the stress that is. And so, of course, they're going to rely on a method book
Hmm.
because they don't have time to figure out any of this stuff.
Hmm.
And they're going to go, well, the method book people know what I need to teach. They
Hmm.
put it in a book.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it's just the quickest, most expedient way
Hmm.
for a new teacher who's not given anything to just, well, I got a book. We're going to start on page one and we're going to get to the end of the book, or we're going to do whatever. And I'm going to throw some concerts in and we're going to call it a curriculum. Like,
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. So is it fair to say, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but from your perspective, it would be ideal for people to be compensated and provided with the time and support to be able to create a curriculum either by themselves or with their colleagues?
yes, we're professionals.
Hmm.
No one looks at a math teacher and says to the math teacher, you have to figure this all out on your own.
Hmm.
They're given a prescribed curriculum
Hmm.
and they're given a book. And, in sixth grade math, you're learning this, this, and this. Teach it.
Hmm.
They're given stuff. And
Right.
someone was paid. And for a lot of these packaged curriculums, those companies are making a boatload of cash
Yeah, they are.
for these pre-packaged curriculums for English language or math or social studies or whatever.
Hmm.
Why is that not the case for music or
Hmm.
art?
Hmm.
We're professionals.
Yeah.
And the fact that a teacher in a profession isn't given the same resources and materials and a curriculum that their colleague down in the math department gets, and the music teachers are just supposed to make this stuff up whole cloth.
Hmm.
It's embarrassing, and it perpetuates the idea that I'm less than a
Mm.
math teacher or a social studies teacher, and I'm not.
Mm.
I'm
Yeah,
not.
it's a great point. And I would say that when I ask people what would be most helpful to you, it's almost across the board 100% time. And not people looking for like time away, but give me the time and the space to create these either resources or the curriculum that I need. In terms of the prescribed curriculum that are sort of pre-existing, where for you is the line of like when should that be the thing that people use and when should curriculum be created by the colleagues in a district?
Depends on what a contract would say,
Mm.
but it depends on what's useful for your district,
Hmm.
what's useful for your group of kids or your time. So, for simplicity, let's just say that the method book is the curriculum,
Hmm.
just for simplicity. So, if I'm in a school district where I see kids twice a week for 30 minutes, what I can teach them out of Habits for a Successful Band Musician
Hmm.
is completely different than what I can teach them out of Sound Innovations
Hmm.
or Standard of Excellence. If I only have 30 minutes and it's going to take me 2 pages of book to teach a concept, that's a week. It's a lot of time.
Right.
So you really have to decide what is best for the length of time you have kids, for the population you get. Mine are almost all already music readers
Hmm.
because it's in the curriculum before me.
Right.
So if you're teaching music from scratch, like do you start rote? Do you not? Do you start with music reading skills and no instruments? I mean, it's a lot of what happens before me. It's a lot of how much time do you get? So when somebody's like, I need a curriculum, help, 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 I'd be like, okay, how long is a class? Do you see them all year? What skills do they come to you with? Those are all things when you're developing something you're going to need to know. You're also going to need to know more about your student population. My student population, one, is mostly music readers.
Hmm.
They come reading, which is a bonus. There are some that are not. My population, all students with special needs are also included in my program.
Hmm.
So I need materials that I can easily adapt and modify for them, that I can blow up on a piece of paper and not have a lot of pictures and colors and graphics and stuff that's
Hmm.
confusing.
Hmm.
And my population, because it's Ann Arbor, Michigan, is a lot of international kids because their
Hmm.
parents are coming to the university.
Right.
So my curriculum, in my mind, should include more world music stuff and exclude things that are religious in nature.
Mm.
So when I'm looking at materials, I look for that kind of stuff. I mean, if I need to teach jolly old St. Nicholas to teach a skill, that's not a material I'm going to use
Right.
because it's inappropriate in my setting.
Right, right.
If you're teaching in a private Catholic elementary school and you want to use the method book, I'm just making up a random example. It's
Sure,
not enough
sure.
book. And you can use that book to teach jolly old St. Nicholas, fine. But that's a material curriculum. Every district's puzzle pieces fit differently. And the idea that like the whole country would use music curriculum Q,
Hmm.
it's impossible.
Right. It's very contextual. I mean, that's a great point. And I wonder if for the people who are asking for a curriculum, it comes back down to they don't really have the time or the resources or the support
Oh
to
yeah, they
develop
have
their own. So they're
nothing.
just looking. So just looking
They
for
have
something
nothing.
to, yeah.
And their district's like, you're going to teach this class this year. And they're like,
Right.
what is that class?
Right.
And they're asking the community, which is what they should do. They
Hmm.
should ask us because there are a lot of us that have spent a lot of time on this kind of thing and we can provide it to them. But it comes down to a lack of respect for my profession
Mm.
that a teacher's told weeks before a school year is going to start, you're going to teach this random class and we're
Right.
not giving you any material support or curriculum for it.
Right. Right.
It's embarrassing and it's inappropriate.
Yeah. Are there fine arts coordinators who pl play a advocating role or curricular role in the district or neighboring districts by any chance?
Yes.
Okay. What role do you think fine arts coordinators could or should play in relationship to curriculum at a sort of district level or even school level?
The fine arts coordinator should make sure that all new hires have access and have an understanding of that.
Hmm.
And that during professional development, because they are responsible for department professional development in my district,
Hmm.
that the newer colleagues are given time and access to more senior staff
Hmm.
to review the curriculum, what's in it, and what resources and materials might be available to them so that they can be successful in teaching it.
Okay, great. Thank you. One of the things I'm realizing is I took for granted that I had fine arts coordinators or that there's fine arts coordinators who I know all around the Phoenix metro area. There's so many people who don't have anyone who is in an administrative role sort of like above them to play that role. So it's kind
We
of,
almost lost ours this year. She was retiring and the district's finance problems, but Ann Arbor is sort of famous for its music and its art.
mhm.
And to have cut that position, the community would not have
Yeah,
allowed.
yeah. You mentioned a couple times also in your survey of the role of scaffolding, how scaffolding plays a role in curriculum. Could you speak to that a bit and explain what you mean by that, but also just flesh that out a bit?
Yeah. So, like I talked about the kindergarten curriculum, about how kindergarten soft, loud, slow, fast, and then it builds and it adds solfege and then adds more solfege. And then fourth grade, they get to recorder where they learn music reading and articulation in a in the traditional Western sense of reading music. And all of that leads to them in then fifth grade seeing me and then making an instrument selection and then continuing that process of reading music, performing music, making music,
Hmm.
improvising, composing. And then from fifth grade, that moves on to middle school, where in the middle school curriculum, like sixth grade, they learn four scales.
Hmm.
I'm just one example.
Yeah, sure.
Seventh grade, they learn all 12. Eighth grade, they learn 12 more octaves or faster. And then when we move on to the high school curriculum gets rid of it's not as necessary to have all of those, like, here's how you read an eighth,
Hmm.
16th notes are in the sixth grade curriculum.
Hmm.
The high school curriculum can really then focus on all the artistic interpretations of things and the performance aspect more than all of the nitty gritty stuff that we
Yeah.
do from fifth to eighth.
And because it seems like, although we don't know what the original creation process was for the district-wide curriculum, what you're describing, because it's a district-wide curriculum, you have the scaffolding that's going across all the different grade levels up from elementary to high school. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. A lot of places don't have that. Each individual teacher might be creating their own thing. And so there's a lot of conversation around vertical integration and how all that works. What advice would
Oh,
you give to
no.
someone? Yeah. What advice would you give to someone who finds themselves in a situation where there's not a district-wide cohesive curriculum and it's kind of different people having different curricula?
One, I have no idea how you can possibly be successful. I'm like, no one, no profession has pockets where you all just do your own random thing and then they all come together in the end and they're successful. It's like everybody working from a different rubric, or it's like a
Hmm.
moving rubric. Like there is no rubric.
Hmm.
Create this thing and we'll tell you in the end if you're right.
Hmm.
Like what? So my suggestion, my recommendation would be to get everybody together,
Hmm.
all of the different music teachers. I call them vocal or general,
Sure.
choir, orchestra, band, get all the people. And the first conversation is you look at all of your general music vocal people and you say, okay, what is pedagogically appropriate for this age kid to do? And then you track from there. Okay, next year. How can we get to whatever the goal is? If the goal is to have a performing ensemble with instruments in their hands, how do we get from a kindergartner trying to keep a steady beat by marching in a circle to an ensemble playing Percy Granger?
Hmm.
So we've got to track that across the entire span of what can we do? The general music people are beyond amazing,
Hmm.
usually, at knowing what is appropriate for which age group,
Hmm.
and then how to pass the baton, so to speak, to the
Yeah.
next group of music teachers.
Yeah. Could you speak a little bit more about, you mentioned goals in there. Can you speak a little bit more about the relationship between goals and curriculum and someone's program?
Goals and curriculum. I sort of view them as the same thing. Well, so a goal and a curriculum. The goal would be to to complete the curriculum. The goal would be to get what you need from your curriculum. So if you're in a performing ensemble, you need them to be able to play.
Uh-huh.
So you got to have goals that they know how to open a case, assemble an instrument. And those are all things that are listed in my curriculum.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I have a list of things that kids need to accomplish. And for them, that's the goal.
Sure. Can I do a thought experiment? Yeah. Well, I don't have any predetermined, like there's no right or wrong response to any of these things. That's what's so cool
Okay.
about the thing. But let me throw a thought experiment out with you in relationship to goals. So let's say you have two ensembles, and let's get rid of the whole district-wide thing just for a moment, because that will make things more complex if we put that in there. But let's say one person's goal is for when the students leave that they feel that they could be very creative as musicians. The other person there, like let's say it's two different districts. The other person's goal is for the students to leave being able to play like very high quality music at a very technically proficient way. So these people have like two, and they might be related, but there's like two different goals. So their
Oh,
curriculum they might look different because of what they sort of emphasize or what they do. Can you
yeah.
just kind of play that out in your mind and kind of talk through that a bit?
So to me, I would change that from goals to philosophy.
Mm, hmm.
So in my mind, my philosophy um, is is how I would look at the curriculum, like the lenses I look to see a
Mm,
curriculum through. So if one teacher's philosophy is that they're technically proficient and they're able to play high level music, they will look at a curriculum and they might emphasize things like music reading and notation and articulation and phrasing,
hmm.
which would be in their curriculum.
Yeah.
Whereas the other teacher's philosophy is more along the lines of creative expression. they would teach those skills, but the materials that they would use to teach them might be completely different.
Hmm.
So if I wanted to teach eighth notes, but my goal was more creative versus performance based, I would have a student write a piece of music
Hmm.
or improvise using eighth notes as their means of expression. Both philosophies, both teachers are seeing the curriculum. Both groups of students are achieving the curricular goal,
Uh-huh.
but the lens and the philosophy that it's looked at from the teacher perspective is different.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting. So, can you imagine a scenario where I'm trying to think about part of this project is what happens when people are provided the opportunity to create and design curriculum. So, let's say you have these folks with different philosophies sort of in these meetings together trying to determine what's the curriculum going to be. Because as you said, like some people have a curriculum where it's been in existence for over 20 something years and like they might be coming together and saying, all right, let's update this thing or let's change it, which actually is happening in a lot of different places. Or the other scenario is a lot of people, individuals. There is not a district-wide thing. It's just there. How do we negotiate or navigate different philosophies playing out in curriculum development from your perspective?
I think the most important thing is to understand that the material is not the curriculum because
Mm.
music teachers love our method books. We get attached to them. We do not want to give them up. We do not
Yeah.
want to have to change them. So when you explain exactly what a curriculum is, in my mind, they're chapter titles.
Hmm. Interesting.
So it's not the story. It's just the chapter titles. So if I'm going into a staff and I'm saying we need to write a curriculum for beginning band, and all these teachers go, but I use sound innovations and I use this and I want this and I want that. Time out, people. What I would say is I need chapter headlines. 1, open a case. 2, assemble instrument. I want a list of the things they need to know by the end of the year. I don't care how you get them to that.
Hmm.
I don't care what materials you use to get them to that. I need a list of stuff that they need to know by the end of the year. Chapter titles only. If you want subtitles or whatever, as a professional, you can do that part on your own. And I think that's very important is to say that you have academic freedom in using whatever materials are appropriate
Hmm. Hmm.
to get that chapter taught.
Yeah. So, and in your case, it seems like the chapter titles are typically skills and concepts. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's what I would say.
So it would be
There's
important,
pedagogical stuff that has never changed.
right? And it seems like for the curriculum to be made by this group of people with differing perspectives, the thing that they would need to agree on is the chapter titles as the skills and agree on a set of skills and concepts. And then once we agree on that, you can each have your own autonomy in terms of like how you help students reach those, like develop their understanding or the skills of those chapter titles. Is that fair?
Yes. And
Okay.
if a colleague, if a high school colleague says, well, I need to make sure that they know how to play some crazy thing,
Hmm.
I can look at them and I can say, that's not pedagogically appropriate. It's not age appropriate.
Hmm.
And, you know, the curriculum design says that we will get to this thing that you need when they're with you.
Right, right. You know, the other thing I'm thinking about is in the way that you sort of have articulated this sort of focus on the method book as curriculum. The other thing that happens quite a bit in the instrumental world is the repertoire is the same kind of phenomenon with repertoire. There's
Yeah,
even an MEJ article that says the repertoire is the curriculum. So do you have perspectives on that? Because I'm finding that all across the field as well.
not. It's not the current. No, it's a material.
Uh-huh.
I don't know why my brain does this. It's a material.
Uh-huh.
It's a way to access. So it would be, I love some of the old music. I love it. But if you were still teaching a piece of music that had three percussion parts in this day and age, when we've got millions of percussionists coming out of the woodwork everywhere,
Mhm.
and um, you have snare drum, bass drum, and crash cymbals, and you're still trying to teach one, there's no way you're going to get your percussion curriculum taught because they're not playing any keyboards or anything else. But if every year the kid learns piece X, and that's been what you've done for all those years, it's lazy,
Mm.
honestly. And it's not keeping up with what has been happening in the band world as a whole. Percussion seems to be the biggest change.
Mhm.
And once again, it comes down to what skills do you need to teach your students? And I would hope that my colleagues would look at a piece of music and say, this gets my clarinets over the break in an easy way.
Mhm.
My clarinets need to be over the break by, whatever the second year they're playing. And this piece of music will fulfill this curricular goal, this curricular need. And they would look at repertoire through the lens of their curriculum.
Mhm.
So I need to teach 6/8 time in seventh grade. What pieces can I use that will fit my ensemble to teach 6/8 time? I mean, if it's a piece of music that's 50 years old and I only have three percussionists, cool. But if I've got more than three percussionists, I'm going to have to look for something different to
Mhm.
teach 6/8 time.
Yeah. You were speaking earlier about the group of students that you work with. Do they play any role in terms of how you think about repertoire or the relationship between repertoire and curriculum?
For my youngest kids, yes and no. They decide what they want to play on their concert.
Oh, wow.
So I teach them a curriculum
Hmm.
using materials. And then when it comes to the final concert at the end of the year, each group gets to select what they want to show.
Hmm.
So they make that decision for the concert. For the older groups, there is a lot more choice, sort of,
Hmm.
what they like and what they want to play. Like I can pull out a bunch of different 6/8 stuff
Hmm.
to figure out which one's best for them. Usually it's more what's age appropriate. To let kids pick or make the selections all the time, it has to be very carefully led by a teacher
Hmm.
so that the curricular goals are met. Like if I'm teaching 6/8 time and I play them three different pieces in 6/8 that they are all pretty much what I need to teach,
Hmm.
and they like the first piece best, cool. That adds it in. Um, I would never want to program things that are only fluffy, happy things that kids love. I think that limits their learning and it limits their exposure to all of music.
Yeah, that's a
I'm
good
going to be
point.
careful how I program that.
Hmm.
Like, it's not going to be a piece of music they all hate. Like, every piece of music on the whole concert, they're like, we hate all of this.
Right.
But there's always going to be a piece of music that's, more broccoli and less chocolate chip cookie.
Yeah. I'm going to come back to a question that I think I now have a better understanding of why you answered it the way you did, but I wanted to kind of come back to it. And it's the one about changing or developing curriculum. I'll read back what you wrote and then we could talk about it. The question was like, what would support you in making kind of changes to your curriculum? It was designing, updating, expanding. And you said nothing. My district provides me with the curriculum. Why would I update, expand, or design anything? If I don't teach
Yeah.
the curriculum provided, I would receive a poor evaluation, possibly be fired, which makes a lot of sense to me now that I understand you have this district provided curriculum that hasn't moved. If the district, and I'm trying to kind of expand now beyond your specific situation to the field, like, so as we're thinking about people who are in positions where they're either tasked with making the change or they have an opportunity to make the change. If you were in that situation, is there anything that you would adapt? And if not, fine. If so, why and how might you go about doing that?
What would I adapt or change? Well, you have to look at if your state has standards. The state of Michigan has standards.
Hmm.
So it just turns out that my curriculum fits the state standards. I'm pretty sure the state just asked Ann Arbor Public Schools. It wouldn't surprise, honestly, it would not surprise me in the least.
Uh-huh.
They just asked us, hey, what do you guys do? Because we have such a successful music program.
Uh-huh.
So you have to look at your state standards and then the very outdated national standards,
Uh-huh.
or, old, ancient at this point,
Uh-huh.
national standards. And then, that's sort of how I would, oh, and if how much time, like I talked before, like
Yeah.
how much time do you get with kids? And what do you think is actually accomplishable in a given year?
Yeah.
I mean, you could throw in a bunch of junk and like put it all in one, but it just, for a new teacher to see all that, they'd freak out.
Yeah.
So you'd want to make sure that whatever it is doable. So if you're updating, you're like, oh, well, kids since COVID have been having terrible trouble staying focused, and we really can't get past whatever skill.
Hmm.
I would say, okay, well, do we need to back up all of those skills and or push them forward into other grades? Like,
Hmm.
how is that looking? Like, if I'm updating stuff like that, I think I would look at, has the amount of time changed that we see kids? Have the kids dramatically changed? Am I getting what I want from the people that come before me?
Hmm.
I've had to have some conversations where people are like, well, we need to change the curriculum. And I'm like, no, the people before us aren't doing their job teaching it.
Mm.
So I could change my curriculum, or we could just make sure that the people are doing their job before they get to me.
And that goes back to I think what you were mentioning earlier. I'm saying as a think aloud, so it's a question, even though it's coming out as a statement. But you mentioned earlier one of the reasons why you felt a district-wide curriculum was important is because it relates back to evaluation of like how well do you think you're doing in your job as a teacher and things of that sort. Is
Yeah.
when you're saying they're not doing a great job because they're not addressing the curriculum that they ought to be addressing. Is that fair to say?
Yes, if I have a colleague that's not following the curriculum and they're like teaching YouTube Disney sing along and they're not teaching the curriculum,
Hmm.
they're not going to be successful in my district and they're going to receive poor evaluations.
Mm.
And honestly, the parents will know
Mm.
because you can't do that.
Because of this sort of linear trajectory, it seems, of if you're not doing these things, they're not going to get to this point that they need to be at in order for when they move on to the next grade level. There's an expectation that they're supposed to be at a particular, know
Yes.
some things and be able to do some things based on the
Yes.
district-wide curriculum.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I'm going to shift into one or two more questions and wrap it up. What is really important for helping people think through curriculum?
So I'm sure that when kids graduate college with their degree in music, they're thinking about all the music the kids are going to play, but they're not really realizing all of that foundational work that comes at the very beginning.
Mm.
But it's the how to think of it. And it's the how to think of it in very distinct categories or chunks. It's the framework of things.
Yeah.
So I can give you a framework for beginning band that's going to work everywhere
Uh-huh.
because it's the foundation.
Right.
It's going to work everywhere. Like every kid has to learn how to open a case.
Right.
Every kid has to learn how to assemble an instrument, how to get a sound. Every kid has to learn these things. And so that very basic framework, I mean, you could just make a book of that.
I think
And
those
then,
exist for like instrumental methods classes and things of that sort in terms of here are the foundational things that students should be able to know and do. But what I'm hearing from you is that people need to think if they're going to develop a curriculum, let's say there isn't one or it needs to be updated. What I'm hearing from you, I think, is think through what is foundational in terms of the skills and concepts the students need to be able to, I guess, succeed in this case on an instrument and being able to play in a group. Is that fair to say?
Yes, and you have to be able to have things that are attainable.
Hmm.
So they have to be age appropriate and they have to fit in with pedagogy. So, if your sixth grade curriculum is you're teaching 16th notes first, and then your seventh grade curriculum is you're teaching them quarter notes, no one in the music field would say that that would be the right order to do things.
Uh-huh.
So you have to think of what's the order and be very prescribed in how you organize and order things. It would be great if you really like this piece of music that's a grade 3 and you're going to teach the concepts to a group of kids that have only been playing music for a year.
Hmm.
But that's not appropriate for them. It's frustrating and it to add these random because I've seen colleagues, well, in the music world.
Sure.
They're like, I like this piece of music and I'm going to teach it with this group of kids. And it's not appropriate and it's frustrating to them. And they've learned the concept out of context
Mm.
with all of the rest of how things go. And when kids learn things in what I would call out of order, like you teach them some really hard skill first, they freak out
Mm.
and they really struggle. And it's really unfair to do that to kids. And so having a curriculum that lays things out in a way that is prescribed really makes it easier for the teacher, but much easier for a kid. So they're not bouncing around learning all kinds of different things because while the song says I need to learn this one weird high note, but they didn't learn the scale that goes with it. Like it's a thought process. It's how you think about it.
You used the word scaffolded earlier. A lot of people use the word sequenced. And so I'm
Yeah.
trying to, is that what you're getting at? When you say prescribed, it is a prescribed order. It is a sequenced order of this comes first, this comes next.
It's a sequence. It's building upon other skills. I don't always know what the educational word is.
Well, that's one of the things I'm finding is people use I have this visualization of all the different ways that people describe all these things that we're talking about. And first of all, it's very evident that when we say the word curriculum, people mean a lot of different things all across the
Yeah.
fields. But even the way people describe what a curriculum is or how to go about doing it, they're using all different kinds of words in different ways, which is fine. We need a sort of like the Star Trek universal translator device to make sure that people are
We
able
do.
to talk across. But I think I'm starting to figure that out. So yeah, when you're saying prescribed in a way where it makes sense, it's what some other people might refer to as a sequence of things, although some people use sequence in a different kind of way. So I just want to make sure that if I'm using language when I'm writing all this up, that I'm staying true to
Yeah,
what you're
yeah.
talking
There
about.
there are people that'll say the scope and sequence is their curriculum.
Right.
And that's, in the front of some teacher's edition of a method book.
Yeah.
You just have it. And
Right.
why that's there is because we haven't been treated as professionals to have a curriculum. So the method book writers are trying to do all this for us
Hmm.
without us having the majority say.
Yeah.
I
Can
mean,
I
it's
just,
nice of them,
yeah.
but we deserve to decide when and what our children learn for our district.
Right. Our communities, our contexts. Last question. It was based on what you said about learning the scale and then playing the piece. Do you think that, and you use the word context too, can students learn skills within a context? Meaning, like, so you give them a piece of music, they learn these things through the music, they haven't learned them before encountering that music. Or are you making the case that they need to learn the skills first and then play the music where those skills are applied? And it doesn't need to be either or. I'm just kind of curious because there's different
No,
perspectives on this.
no, both are possible. It really does depend on your group of kids.
Ah,
Some some students, if you throw them in the pool with a piece of music first, or some band groups,
uh-huh,
you throw them in the pool with a piece of music, and you sight read it, they freak out. They're like,
uh-huh.
"Well, I don't know how to do this. I can't do this, and what's going on?"
Yeah.
Some years you could teach it with the piece of music, and the kids are like, I don't know that. Okay, I'll teach it. Well, look, we're going to learn it.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
So to me, it depends on your group of kids. If you have a group of kids that you know is going to freak out when they hit something they don't know, you need to preload that content for them.
Hmm.
So you might need to say, okay, so we're going to play this piece of music and it uses this weird note. Turn to this page in your method book and we're going to learn this song that uses this note. And to go to the method book page because the picture of the fingering is there.
Sure, sure.
So you're incorporating your materials.
Right. It's using a resource in a way that you think is more pedagogically sound than it's the basis of your curriculum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does. I mean, both are super useful
Uh-huh.
and both work.
Right.
There's not one that's right or wrong. Both
Right.
work, but it depends on I don't know, sort of the disposition of your kids.
Sure. Sure.
If they really need something before you throw them in the pool, they need the life ring, give them the floaty,
Right, right,
and then throw them in the pool.
right. Love it.
If they're like, cool, I'll figure out how to swim when I get there, then
Uh-huh.
throw them in the pool.
Yeah, I love it. That's a great metaphor. Well, Melissa, thank you so much for your time and your perspectives. Again, thank you so much and have a good rest of your summer. Enjoy that porch. It's beautiful.
Yes, thank you very much. You have a good interview.
Thank you so much. All right, bye.
Bye.
Even though Melissa and I were talking about her experiences and perspectives on beginning instrumentals and beginning ensembles, so much of what she was talking about have implications for most contexts in which we might be working with young people. So one of the themes that comes up early on is Melissa's perspectives on the roles of resources and materials in relationship to curriculum. She has the stance that method books are not the curriculum, and this perspective that a lot of folks do approach method books as curriculum. It's interesting to think about our varying perspectives in the field about the role that resources play, sometimes as curriculum and sometimes in relationship to curriculum. So I would encourage you to think through in your own teaching, whether it's your work at a school, a studio, what is the role of the resources that you draw upon? And for those of you who work with method books, what role do those method books play? Are they a curriculum for you? Are they a resource in relationship to the curriculum? Are they a part of the curriculum? So again, the role of resources in relationship to curriculum is something that you're going to hear a lot about in most of these interviews. Melissa also talks about this idea that our curriculum should be responsive to students in our community. And she makes a case that we can and should account for what students know and are able to do with their prior experiences and their culture. And so this relates to the degree of flexibility sometimes that we have in our curriculum. From year to year, you might experience students with varying degrees of ability, with varying types of prior knowledge. And how does your curriculum work in relationship to those realities? That's something that, again, you'll be hearing in a lot of these episodes. Curious about your perspectives on that. We also talked quite a bit about how our philosophical perspectives and our orientations factor in how we interpret and make meaning of curriculum, and also in the types of goals that we work towards in our programs. One of the things that we talked about in relationship to philosophical perspective is how a program and curriculum that's focused on working towards developing students' technical proficiency might differ from one that's more focused and oriented towards developing students' creative expression. And then how, in this case, beginning instrumentalists, the idea that they are beginning factors in that sort of relationship between technical development and creative development and musical development, and sort of all the ways that those things overlap and blend and interconnect. But the takeaway here for me is not to answer what that right balance is, but to think about how our philosophical orientations and the ways that we think through curriculum factor in how we make sense of all of that. So curious where you are on that. And then Melissa has this great metaphor here. She says, give them the floaty and then throw them in the pool. And if they're like, cool, I'll figure out how to swim when I get there, then throw them in the pool. And this triggered a thought to me about Lucy Green. She was one of the first folks in the field who researched how popular musicians learn. She has a book called How Popular Musicians Learn. When she developed sort of pedagogical approaches based on her research, part of the approach that she talks about is this idea of throwing students in the deep end of the pool, where the idea is that you throw them in the deep end and then you see how well they can swim and then you scaffold, but to give them that opportunity of like being thrown in the deep end. And Melissa here is talking about this idea of, yeah, it's okay to throw students in the pool and see how they're feeling about it. None of us obviously want students to drown. And I think a lot of teachers do this idea of you give students a floaty and then you throw them in the pool. And then they have the ability to kind of go around the pool, to swim with those floaties on. You've scaffolded that process. There are some folks who might take the track where you are putting them in the pool without the floaties, and then you're just right there, ready to go, ready to make sure that they're okay. That doesn't come up as much in this interview, but you'll hear in future episodes folks who have more of that perspective. But here, I don't want to focus so much on the pedagogy. Not that that's not important, but just right now to think through when you are working with curriculum, when you're designing curriculum, how do you approach this idea of like, do you put students in the pool first and then have the scaffolding ready to go, those floaties or those lifesavers? Do you provide them the floaty first and then put them in the pool? What do you do curricular-wise in relationship to students' success, students' development, students working through problem solving? And how do you answer that in relationship to your context? You know, for those of you that teach beginners, you might answer that differently than for those of you who are teaching students who are further along in their journey. So again, so many things to think about, but I hope you took at least one thing away. And for those of you who don't teach in instrumental settings, perhaps you teach in other ensemble settings, perhaps you're finding ways to make connections. And for those of you who teach in other kinds of settings, whether it's general music or other contexts of music teaching, what did you take away? There's always going to be something in any of these interviews, in any of these conversations that you can take away regardless of your context. So I can't wait for the next episode that you're going to hear. You'll definitely find something to connect to, and I'll catch you in the next episode. So much to think about. What's just one step you might take in the near future? For further reflection and planning, you can access show notes and references at evantobias.net/podcast. If you want to explore more of these types of themes, dig deeper, or spark movement forward, join my music ed newsletter at evantobias.net. The newsletter provides more of my own perspectives, along with resources, current issues and topics related to music education, along with sparks and springboards for your music classes and ensembles, all to support you in designing, updating, expanding, or transforming your music program. Thanks for listening, and until next time, have a good one, and keep imagining possibilities.